Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. This is webinar number 2 in a series that we intend to do. Couple of housekeeping items before we get started talking about cybersecurity. We have, there's a question and answer section at the top of your Teams window. If you have a question, if you want to raise your hand or if you want to put your question in there at the end of the webinar, or towards the end of the webinar, we will open it up and try and answer questions that we can. Cameras and mics are disabled even for the question and answer. It'll be via text, and we will reach out to you, or try to do it in the order in which you ask your question. So let's talk about cybersecurity, and most specifically about how things have changed. So cyber attacks are accelerating. If you read, follow, or watch the news, I'm sure you're aware that ransomware, digital extortion, and data thefts are on the rise. Everyone is aware of this, but a lot of people don't know what you can actually do about it. All businesses have IT support. It could be outsourced IT. It could be in-house IT with a staff of several people or just a single person. Or it could be Sandra, the receptionist, who just happens to know the most about computers. At AM Data Service, we are an MSP, which is a managed service provider. We provide outsourced IT service to businesses. Now, some people on the webinar are clients and they're aware of this. Other people are prospects or new to this arena and may not necessarily be familiar. But essentially, an MSP is a troubleshooting help desk IT support organization that provides an all-you-can-eat type of support model where you pay a flat rate and you get as much support as you need. The problem with it that we've found is that model is insufficient when it comes to security and your business security and your personal computer security. So we are striving to change that model and pivot to being a security forward organization. The threat landscape is demanding that we make a change, and AM Data Service is trying to take that very seriously, and we have pivoted and we are adding a DBA, STACK Cybersecurity. STACK Cybersecurity is still a managed service provider, but we also have an emphasis on security, bridging us into a managed security service provider model. Like I mentioned, things have changed, and it's all pretty scary. Your network has gaps. Examples that we find a lot are software vulnerabilities. QuickBooks, Adobe Acrobat, Snagit, even the HP printer software that you use to scan on your computer. All of these applications are written at a point in time. And at that point in time, that code is set. And unless you're updating that code, as things change around that code, i.e. your computer, your operating system, other applications that use common files, there can be vulnerabilities that develop inside that code. Software manufacturers are really required to scan their software, to test their software ongoing. And when they do find gaps, they publish those gaps in the form of a CVE, which is a critical vulnerability and exception. So vulnerability scanners watch for those CVEs and figure out what software needs to be patched. Another example of gaps on your network today is related to security and awareness training and how those result in business email compromises. Business email compromise is where a hacker, or we call them threat actors, convince you in some way to click a link or to open an attachment or possibly decipher an automated mailbox like accounts receivable at business.com where messages are automatically opened. And sending a malicious code, whether it's in an attachment or in that link, um, enables you to give the threat actor an opportunity to compromise your network. So, an example of that is we were recently at a conference at Right of Boom, and they demonstrated a business email compromise where a threat actor sent a link, got the link clicked, accessed that user's Office 365, and logged in and started perusing his emails. All that happened within 2.5 minutes. So, what are they looking for? They are trying to extort your data. They are trying to sell it on the dark web. Um, Cyber extortion is the latest trend that we're seeing. Um, they're not just out there to encrypt your data, they're actually holding your data hostage. Hackers threaten to release your information, whether it's about you personally or about your company. They threaten to release it unless you pay them money. So, I mean, think about it for a second. Let's say you have clicked a link on your laptop, give a threat actor a foothold, and next thing you know, you get an email from them saying, "Hey, I have 13 hours of video footage of you on your laptop. Pay me $10,000 or I'm going to publish it on the web." This is scary stuff. What if it were photos from your plastic surgeon, or possibly health or privacy information that you'd prefer no one know anything about? The threat actors look for this information and they try to extort you to pay them to not release it. When it comes to business, it's a lot about your intellectual property. If you are a ladder manufacturer and you have a patent on your tread, what if they have the drawings to your patent, to your tread patterns? What if you're an attorney and they have all of your contracts? They contact you by email or by a note on your computer through an application and essentially say, pay us or we're going to release this information. Sales on the dark web are trending up. The dark web is very, very easily accessible, and anybody can become a hacker pretty quickly. It's no longer about being the hooded computer nerd that doesn't talk to anybody and just pounds monsters all night long writing code to try and exfiltrate something. This is as easy as loading up a browser, going to the right website, and saying what you want to buy. In fact, there's like eBay sites for different ransomware and malwares you can purchase. There's even trials of ransomware where you can get a 1-day free trial of ransomware software to see how it works before you. So these are gaps in your posture, and it's what we're here to try and educate you about. So a cybersecurity risk assessment identifies potential vulnerabilities in your organization's digital defense. This is what we call your attack surface. These risk assessments that we're performing, we're really seeing nearly every time that there's several security gaps. Example of a recent security risk assessment we performed. This is a 250 device network. So it's a little bit large of a network for small to mid-sized business, but it's kind of right in the mix. But the numbers are staggering. So out of a 250 device network, exactly 250 devices had vulnerabilities. Of those vulnerabilities, 45,400 were high severity vulnerabilities. That's related to applications and applications that don't have those CVEs patched. There were 14,000 medium severity vulnerabilities. Here's the real kicker: 128,000 social security numbers located within 4,700 files, all on a local company network. We found 6,800 routing numbers, almost 4,000 credit card numbers, and also included medical records. So this is the data that the threat actor or the hacker is looking for on your network. And what we're seeing is every single time it's there for them to take. And so when we perform a risk assessment, we're really trying to build a story and explain to you how the hacker gets a foothold or access to your network, what they typically do when they're on your network, which is scan your web browsers, which are completely insufficient at protecting you and storing your passwords. They scan for social security numbers, they scan for bank numbers, and then they decide how they want to extort you. If it's data, then they're looking for payment. I don't know if you know this or not, but a social security number on the dark web right now goes for $20. The data that they're taking is so commoditized. This is one of the reasons why extortion is becoming a bit more popular, because they're getting more for less, right? About an hour footage of you on your laptop um, might be worth more than 500 social security numbers at $20 a pop. So even during this assessment, we found an active compromise where while we're analyzing security logins from locations, we found an active login from India in the name of a welder that lives in Georgia. So the stuff is happening, and we are trying to build this risk assessment to really identify where those gaps are and to tell that story. So the framework that we use is we evaluate your people, your process, your technology, and your data. We look for these foundations to build that narrative of the attack surface. It's the same thing that the threat actors are doing. So people happens to be the number one vulnerability of a business. Outside of your CVEs, your people are the most vulnerable, or are the biggest vulnerability. So we really try to figure out how to protect the people. And as businesses, you typically do this by putting tools in place. You have to have a firewall that does intrusion prevention scanning and application filtering and software detection, stuff like this. But what we're not doing is we're not helping the people not have to make the decision. Those tools in themselves are not quite enough. You need to secure the perimeter, the firewall. You need to go further all the way down to the endpoint and watch everything. And you can build this on a zero trust type of network and accomplish a lot more. Ultimately, the problem is we have to remove the decision from your end users and start eliminating those decision points using more security and more tools. Ultimately, our job is to mitigate the errors and reduce the opportunities for this stuff to happen. So here's an example. This is HIPAA violations, so it's healthcare specific. But what's interesting is that these are all Michigan-based organizations, and they're really mostly in our Tri-County area. This is just the last 12 months. And another thing to point out is they actually have a wall of shame. It's pretty pathetic, actually, that there's a wall of shame where they log how many incidents there are. It's not just healthcare. The municipalities and the court systems are also at risk. 2023 was the worst ransom year on record, and it's not going to slow down. I believe just last April or sometime this year, 2024, Traverse City School was hit. It's a 105 increase on known ransomware attacks just against K-12 and higher ed. So the next part of what we're looking at is the process. So the process is the helper for your people. This is where we're injecting policies, procedures, and all of this we try to build on a foundation of the Center for Internet Security Controls, or the CIS controls. Again, we're trying to remove the need for users to make a judgment call, and policies and procedures can help do that. So as cybersecurity is becoming more prevalent and progressing, the insurance companies are becoming more stringent about what they want you to have on your network and what you're using to secure data. The questionnaires we get asked to help with questionnaires all the time, and the questionnaires that we're seeing are growing page by page by page. Some of them are 15, 30 pages long. So we factored our security platform, our stack, if you will, around the same CIS controls that the insurance companies are using. And the idea is to make you insurable. Next part is the technology. So technology is all about the stack. The stack is everything to us. It's what we spend hours poring over. The stack is the tool set. It's the policies. It's the applications that we use to deliver a security solution to you. Some key features, so this will be a long list, the key features of our security service built into our stack. Endpoint detection and response. This is like your antivirus, but antivirus is a misnomer. It doesn't actually, there's no actual anti to viruses, right? Virus remediation is after the fact. So they've moved to a model where they're endpoint detection and response. Managed detection and response is where you're introducing that 24/7 SOC, Security Operations Center, behind that. So this is where we have people watching the applications, email traffic, all of this stuff that's happening on your network. There's people watching it. This list is very, very long. There's a lot to what we're putting into our stack. But some of the key things, user security and awareness training, secure access, service edge, multi-factor authentication, all of these parts can be burdensome and cumbersome, but they're really important to include. And this is how we are combating the threat landscape and what's happening. So the final part is the data. Data is what they are here to take. Data is what they're after. The Wall Street Journal actually has a cybersecurity section. I didn't know this until recently. Just like the sports section, just like the finance section, they actually have a section for cybersecurity now. And it's all illustrating and highlighting what the hackers are out to take, which is your data. They are ransoming your data, where they're taking it from you, holding it hostage. They are exfiltrating it and just selling it to the dark web. Kind of a quick and dirty process where, like I showed you, we scan your network, we find 30,000 social security numbers. They're worth $20 a piece. I'll just take my money and move on. The latest is extortion, like I mentioned. Extortion is where they are taking your data, holding it hostage, and trying to get you to pay more for less. Imagine if you are a building contractor and your most advanced LEED certified engineering drawings to date were taken and sold or threatened to be sold to your competitors. And we've seen where they're actually contacting your competitors directly and saying, hey, we've got so-and-so's drawings on such and such building at this address. Are you interested? We'll let them go for 15 grand. Companies are buying this stuff. It's a competitive edge. Or it may just be publishing it for sale and advertised on the dark web. Another example of extortion, what if you received a threat that all your proprietary contract language was going to be published on the dark web? If you're an attorney, or if you are a business that sells contracts and all of your contract language is leaked, or even more scary and more personal, what if there was video footage of your child on their laptop and they were threatening to sell it on the dark web unless you pay $15,000? People will pay this money. They'll pay the ransom because you're touching a nerve, you're touching a personal point that really affects people's livelihoods, it affects their reputation. So here's the thing. Managed services doesn't include cybersecurity protections. It doesn't include much outside of antivirus, which, as we know, isn't even a thing anymore. Um, you don't know how to choose these tools. There's a lot to it. Norton isn't enough. They're not going to save us. So there's just simply too much for one person to work through. And you need a team behind you to do it. That's what AM Data and STACK Cybersecurity is doing. We have the team. We have IT support and cybersecurity specific staff, both with cross training on how to do these roles. We've got the tools where we pour over our stack to make sure it's right. Uh, that in itself is nearly a full-time job. We have processes. We focus on uh, building strong processes. We're working towards compliancy ourselves. So we're in the audit period of SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. And so as we rebrand to Stack Cyber and take a security forward approach, we're trying to do the same on our own internal networks. And then we have the product, and our product is the Cyber Stack. It is accumulation of that large tool set that I showed you, and coupled with virtual CIO services, CISO services, quarterly business reviews, quarterly risk assessments, automated annual penetration tests. There's a lot to this, and we're here to help. So really what I want to implore you to think about is, when can you get a CSRA, Cybersecurity Risk Assessment? Why should you get a CSRA? This stuff you have to consider. Your data is important. Your process is important. Your business is important. And even your personal lives are important. And so securing our access and securing computer systems is really paramount. So the CSRA, it's really depends on the size of your organization. But what we do is we run an agent on your computer. That may be for a week. It may be for 2 or 3 weeks. Depends on how many computers we need to scan. We're going to scan those computers, look for dark web breaches, look for security vulnerabilities in your software, look for weak passwords stored on the network, that sort of stuff. And then we're going to couple that with some other processes that we do, whether that's email audit trails, audit logging, location awareness, and where users are logging in from, restrictions, and how we can lock all that down. And then we'll also test your people, and we'll do phishing exercises, maybe some social engineering type of exercises. Couple that with some questions about how you run the business and how it works, and put that together and build a narrative. We try to build a story about how your business has vulnerabilities, how the threat actors are going to exploit them, what that could potentially cost you, and how we can mitigate them as a team. Like I said, the evaluation in itself takes around a week to 3 weeks, depending on the size of the organization. And then we'll present the findings to your leadership team and talk about what we see. So, like I mentioned, we are here for you. We know this stuff. A cybersecurity risk assessment is paramount. You must evaluate your attack surface, and we appreciate it if you would consider Stack Cyber to do that. I'd like to open it up to questions. Tracy, if you have any questions, or if anyone wants to post a question, we appreciate you taking your time to watch or listen to the webinar, and hope that we can help you.
Yes, thanks, Rich. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A, and this is a great time if anyone else has a question. If you would like to post it in the Q&A, you should see it at the top of your screen. So first question here is your cybersecurity stack proprietary?
Part of it is and part of it isn't. So the tools are all tools. They're not any tools that we've specifically developed or designed, but we spend our time and effort assembling the correct tool stack. So some of the tools, or most of the tools that we have and use, are um, channel only, if you will. You have to be an MSP to use these tool sets. It's kind of like your plumbing. You can go to Home Depot and buy plumbing tools and plumbing uh, components, but really your professional plumber has access to more sophisticated stuff. So it's kind of like that. We've got access to better tools, and the most efficient tools that we feel are on the market versus consumer based. I think you're muted.
Yes, thank you. Yes, another question here. Can a proven cybersecurity program that is implemented by a company help to reduce the cost of commercial insurance?
Yes, absolutely. We are asked all the time to help companies complete their cyber insurance questionnaires. What we're seeing is some cases out of the box answering your questionnaire, you're not insurable. The insurance agencies actually pass. Other times, what we see is that you will answer yes to some things and no to a lot of other things, and they'll still insure you, but your rate reflects how many no's you have. Another interesting thing is that they will also insure you, but then when you have a breach or a compromise or a data loss, an incident, if you will, they're not necessarily going to cover it. Just because they insured you doesn't mean they're going to cover it. And so, yes, absolutely. When you run enough tools and processes to answer yes to the majority of these cyber questionnaires, it is a reflection of your rate, and it is certainly a reflection of your insurability. When we filled out ours for AM Data about 2 months ago, um, out of a 12-page questionnaire for, I think it was Tokyo Marine, we didn't answer no to anything. We answered yes to every single question that they had. Take that back. With exception of one, they said, "Do you take your backups physically offsite and store them in a safe?" Um, Physical backups is not a thing anymore. So I challenged the underwriter on that, and they agreed. So yeah, it does help you with your insurance rates and your insurability.
Okay, here is another question. What kind of cybersecurity protection is available for smartphones? Does your program include smartphones owned or used by the company's employees?
Yeah, so there's tools out there, and our stack certainly includes them. The primary tool we use is mobile device management. This gives us, as your IT company, the ability to remotely wipe a phone if it's got a compromise, or to track a phone if it's lost or taken. It and then we also have a tool called SASE. It's not necessarily a tool, more of a concept. SASE stands for Secure Access Service Edge. So SASE is really actually quite cool. It's it's like a firewall slash VPN all the way at the end device. So typically we have firewalls at the perimeter, and then when you're outside of the perimeter on like a laptop, you establish a VPN tunnel back to that firewall. SASE is more of a decentralized approach. There's still a head unit, but it's in the cloud, and so we can put essentially a VPN firewall at your on your phone, on your iPad, on your Android, your Samsung tablet, your laptops, even you know, even workstations and stuff that are on the network, we still prefer to run SASE on them and decentralize the firewall capabilities.
Okay, well, that is it for the Q&A.
Okay. Well, We really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to listen to what we have to say. And hopefully we've given you some insights as to the threats that are out there and what the landscape looks like. It's ever evolving, and we are working hard to try and combat that. That's why we've pivoted, and we will continue that fight. So if there is any desire, if you would like a CSRA or if you would like someone to reach out, please feel free to drop a message in the chat or to email us at servicerequest@stackcyber.com, or you can call our number on our website, which is stackcybersecurity.com or amdataservice.com. And with that, we'll wrap it up. I appreciate your time. Hey, thank you.